Hello YouTube, this is part 2 and the continuation of the video I made about the many lies of PED users, and this will be the final installment that will run for at least an hour, 30-40 minutes, because this is the most important portion of my argument. In part 1, I mostly discussed the lies that PED users on platforms such as YouTube or Instagram have propagated, the things they tell their audiences to sell products or to feel better about themselves, and to protect their ego and images. And all of that in reality should have already convinced you to never touch PEDs. That being said, while doing so, I also committed a cardinal sin. While trying to discourage you from taking PEDs, I had to be honest. And by being honest, I had to tell you the truth. And the truth is that PEDs are magical. PEDs will make you bigger. And this is a problem. You might not see it as one right now, but in reality, it is the reason why so many people who speak up against PED use do more harm than good in reality. Because when they think that they're doing prevention, in reality, they're hyping up the product. When they say to their audience, oh, this is bad, but you'll get that side effect, and this, but it makes you big, the audience only hears, it makes you big. And in reality, the hour-long video I made might have actually gave some of you some temptations. And you might think, okay, well, maybe it's going to turn me into a bad person, but look at the gains. I don't want to live naturally for 10 years and be outdone by someone in 2 years because they take drugs. I want to be big, I want to be jacked. I'll do PEDs. And who knows, maybe I'm going to be an exception. Maybe I can have it under control. I'm special, I'm the exception, I'm going to be the guy that has it all. That might be in your head, and I don't blame you for it. I don't, because I know that it's a very vicious effect. Even if I preach for an hour against PEDs, even if I do that, I cannot take away their effectiveness. I cannot, it would be dishonest. And therefore, I'm tempting you. And this is why this video needs to happen, because today, I'm going to focus essentially on the health consequences. The side effects, what people call sides, that cute nickname that in reality just downplays what it means. Sides, what does that mean? Well, we're going to discuss it today. I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when you take those products, and I'm going to try and paint you the picture of the man on PED, of the PED user, and you will see that it's a grim portrait. This is not someone you want to be. So let's get right into it, because I already have you convinced that PEDs are amazing. But in reality, that's what everyone does. Whether you are for or against PEDs, you are going by default to publicize their use. Not necessarily normalize, but publicize. Because you have to talk about the product. That's the paradox of trying to combat evil, is that when you combat evil, you give evil more visibility. And therefore, in a sense, you're also propping it up. It's the reason why if you stare into the abyss for too long, the abyss stares back at you. It is that continuous quest to slay what can be considered as primordial monsters that can lead to their strength exploding and then becoming completely uncontrollable. And I think this is what happened on YouTube Fitness. Some people tried to do prevention. They tried, but it didn't work. It backfired because they didn't do it properly. They couldn't get vicious enough. We're fighting against something that is in reality a creature that is so vile that the only way to actually get rid of it and to prevent people from touching it is to get as vile. And I know it's risky, I already told you about the abyss. I'm willing to go into the abyss. If it's what it takes, it doesn't matter. Because there are certain things that need to be said. And the problem too is that what I'm saying here could have happened already. But the problem is that a lot of the time, the people who hype up PEDs hype them up because they lie about their powers to claim their results as their own. And that's the reason why, in reality, you have a weird dichotomy between PED users and natties. A lot of natties end up believing, rightfully so, that PEDs are amazing, and the people who use them while boasting physiques that are completely untouchable without drugs say to you that they don't do that much. It's a fun contradiction, isn't it? Because in reality, they know better than us. They're the ones who took that first cycle and saw amazing results, not us. And yet they refuse to share it. Why? Well, as I said last time, to preserve their ability to claim that their gains are their own. but it goes even beyond that. Because in reality, the PED user's mindset revolves around the pretending that PEDs don't have an impact. Meaning that it's insane to see that people who exist through the product, because of the product, whose entire cerebral waves have been replaced by the product, say that it does nothing. Apparently, according to them, it doesn't really help with gains. It has no side effects. It has no health consequences. So it's saltine shots. It's not doing anything, but yet you do it every day, every 2 days. You spend all of your money on it. You're addicted to it. You can't go without it, but it does nothing. It is that dichotomy. It's that oxymoronic state of their life that needs to be pointed out, because it's the reason why they're slowly killing themselves and they don't do anything about it. And I want to make sure that you don't end up like them. And this ties directly into something that I need to say to you guys, because I've discussed it vaguely in a comment way past a long time ago. But I was personally tempted by PEDs too. I was. And that was in 2016-17, where ironically I thought I had reached the natural limits and I couldn't progress anymore. Which makes no sense, because at the time I was still making progress. I was still getting bigger and stronger. So it really goes to show how stupid I was. And I wish I could just jump in a time machine and just find that old version of me and just pelt myself with bananas, because I truly deserved it. I am ashamed of what I was. I evolved, thankfully, but as I said, I was on the brink. And at the end of the day, it was a pipe dream, because I'm an immigrant. And at the end of the day, taking PEDs is a felony, but for someone like me, it could result in being just deported, which would be perfectly normal. You do hard drugs as an immigrant, you're out, that's normal. But at the time, I was matrixed. It's something we say in French, matrixé. My brain was set on it. And I know that some guys on this channel watching it right now are the same. You have accepted the fact that you will do PEDs. And maybe you're starting to warm yourself up. I described it last time. You're fighting against people like me who preach against PEDs. You're on forums. You're asking questions. You're researching. I did all of that. All of that you did, I did it. That cycle that you're entering, I was in it first. And it could have resulted in me taking PEDs. It could have. Honestly, it could have. As stupid as it would have been for me, I foresee a dimension where there's a version of me who's on drugs. I do. And I can tell you that that guy is miserable for many reasons. But what got me out, what stopped me before I could even touch the first psalm, the first pill, is meeting people on PEDs. I spoke about that last time. Through certain websites, I could meet people around me in public gyms that were roid heads. And just by talking to these men, I realized, wow, not only am I never going to use PEDs in my life, I will actively fight against it, because I saw the reality of the situation. It wasn't a dream anymore. It wasn't just a fantasy in my head. It was on the ground. There was a reality that I had to face, and that reality was grim. And this is why it never happened. It never materialized. I never did PEDs. But I want to extend that hand and tell to you, I understand. I get it. We're in this for muscle building. We're in this to get bigger. And at some point, when someone tells you, hey, there's a magic pill that is going to give you all of that and more, who wouldn't be tempted? Let's be honest. I don't want to just be almighty and preachy and say, oh, how dare you even consider it? You're impure. You're unworthy of the natural ways. No. None of that. I get it. You want to take it to the next level. I get it. But what I want you to know is that the price that you'll have to pay is not worth it. It cannot be worth it. It's 1 to 100. And I'm going to expose all of these facts for you today. So last time we discussed the mental shackles of PEDs, what it does to your brain, the cognitive dissonance it's going to put you in, the potential Stockholm syndrome you're going to experience. You're going to be an hostage of the drugs. The drugs are going to invade your brain. You won't be able to get out. But today, let's talk about the serious health consequences, because they are always downplayed by PED users. Always. This is the oldest page in the book. Every single time there is a guy, even if they're open about their use, when you ask them about the consequences, even if they're open about the side effects, they always don't play it. Always. And you even have some guys who are going to straight up tell you that certain dosages are healthy. Like with a straight face, they'll tell you, hey, If you take below that many milligrams, it's healthy, bro. How, when, and why? In what situation is that applicable? If you met someone who told you, oh, that amount of cocaine is fine, just take that tiny amount of cocaine, you'll be fine. No, it's not a hard drug. And also, you're going to start with that small amount, but you won't stay at that small amount. It's going to be more and more and more and more. And that's just the reality of the situation. It's going to become an addiction. There is no way around it. So that's something that needs to be pointed out first. There is no honesty surrounding PED users. The only honest PED user on this entire platform I ever saw was Rich Piana. Rich Piana straight up on camera said, hey, I'm killing myself. What I'm doing right now is really stupid. I'm shortening my life. I'm going to die very young, but I'm fine with that. He was fine with that. He died the way he lived, and that's it. That's the one guy I can think of. I don't know any other guy who says that, but that's what they should say. When they open their video, instead of doing their cookie cutter intro, they should say, hey guys, I'm killing myself. You want to kill yourself with me today? Okay, take my advice. That's what PED use is. There's really no way around it. And no one speaks about that. So let's speak about that in detail, because since this is already a big lie, it's going to need so many more lies to camouflage itself and to fabricate a reality where this is fine to say, that you will see that the rabbit hole of fabrication goes really, really deep with these people. And to rebound on that too, I had a point here. That was number 2, if I can find it, because of course, yeah. Last time I used a metaphor that I think is extremely relevant, and that was the metaphor of the battered spouse. I said that people who take PEDs end up like men or women who are in abusive relationships. And I sort of expanded on the topic and said that if you try to help these people, sometimes they're receptive, sometimes they get aggressive. But I thought about that because it happened in my life, and I thought, man, how come? Why is that energy there? Why is that person aggressive towards me? And last time I said it's because you're questioning their choice. But it goes beyond that. In fact, it goes way beyond that. In reality, what happens when you're being abused by someone is they're not always abusing you. There are pockets of freedom. There's pockets of happiness. Because if there weren't, you wouldn't be with that person. And that's when the abuse catches on. That's when you're stuck in a loop. Because the person treats you right, so you're thinking, oh, they love me and they give me affection. Then they abuse you. But after the abuse comes the nice behavior again. So you're constantly in that weird wave of negative and positive reinforcement that keeps you hooked. You cannot go out. Because in the bad moments, your brain tells you, wait, at the end of the bad moment comes the good moment. So just stay in the situation for a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. And you never escape. To the point where one day, your partner kills you. Right? They beat you up every single day, you stay for the nice moments, and one day they just kill you. That is the battered spouse syndrome. PEDs are the same. They take steroids because of the positive effects, muscularity, pumps, blah, 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 insane libido, the arrogance, the fact that you feel like a god, etc. But then the side effects kick in, the bad stuff. But they stick it out. Why? Because of the good stuff. So what really happens is that the bad stuff is more and more and more, but they can never let go of the good stuff. That's all of the guys I met that told me, man, every single second I'm miserable, but there are 2 small moments of bliss that don't let me quit. It's like an heroin addict. These guys feel good when they're on the dope, but most of the time they feel miserable when they're not on it. And they continue doing it. Why? Mathematically, if you thought about it and you thought logically, you would say, okay, that makes no sense. If you compound the amount of time you're miserable and the amount of time you're happy, it doesn't work. But they do it. Because the brain is always going to have memories linked to dopamine. And so you're stuck. You're stuck until your drug kills you. Because you're letting it build momentum to the point where the sides become too much and you're dead. And now there's nothing. There's no goods, there's no bads. There's just void. You're gone. That's it. Is this what you want? I just described what your life is going to be. All right? So PEDs can say, no, it's not true, can control it. No, you're lying to yourself. You know that what I'm saying is resonating with you right now because you're the battered spouse. And PEDs are your abuser, but you are willingly taking it. That's what makes it even worse. You are your own killer. And that also, it links to that sentence, when you're killing yourself, you have to tell yourself it's okay. Any behavior that's self-destructive gets justified one way or the other, by you or by the environment, by people around you. Because rare is the person who does something that is going to lead to their demise that accepts it verbally. It's rare. That's why I said that Rich Piana was an exception. It's because once you verbalize it, you can't avoid it. Like, I can tell you right now, if there was a clause, a magical clause, like dictated by the universe, or PED users who inject had to tell themselves, I'm killing myself right now. Every time they inject, they would stop. Because it would create such a resounding just shock in them. Because they would finally realize what they're doing to themselves. But the problem is that the act by itself becomes just banal. It's normalized because they do it so often. That's also the danger of it. Because once you're caught in that habit of injecting, it's tough to get out. And you end up believing and feeling in your heart that the action of injecting yourself is normal. That's the reason why also a lot of heroin addicts, when they quit and they get sober and they try to replace it with exercise, a lot of them jump on steroids because they are addicted to syringes now, meaning that they kicked one drug for another. And it's extremely common with PED users. A lot of them are ex-users, and they convince themselves that, oh, my new drug habit is fine, it's healthy, but it's not. They're still killing themselves. This is why it's so dangerous. It's not healthy. The fact that it's controversial to say that also blows the mind. We're at a point where saying that PED use isn't healthy is seen as somehow offensive, right? Like it's up for question. Like, oh, can we discuss it? No, we can't. We can't. Because it's allowing moral relativism to just set root. It's fine to discuss certain things, but there are hard lines that need to be put, meaning that if we don't have them, it becomes too easy for that weird inversion of values to take place. It needs to be prevented. And again, when you're killing yourself, you have to tell yourself that it's okay, because a lot of those people will try and do that, actually say that it's okay by saying that a responsible use of drugs is possible. And it's not just PEDs, it's any drug user. They will find a way to tell you that what they're doing is fine. The guy who does coke on the weekends, the guy who does heroin, at night, the guy who smokes a joint before going to work, the guy who has to drink to be able to go to bed, or he has 2 beers every night in front of the TV. All of these people will justify what they're doing and tell you that it's fine because they're in control. There is no control because you're doing it right now. You're having 2 beers, bro. You're not in control. If you don't have those 2 beers, you're shaking. Is that control? I don't think so. That's called addiction. There's absolutely zero possibility of you being in the lead. The drug is in the lead. The drug will always be in the lead. Drugs have been designed to be in the lead. They are designed to bind with chemicals in your brain, to trigger chemical reaction in your brain so that you come back to them. If you think about it, drugs are like parasites. They are a substance that the more you consume, the more you want to consume it. Within them exists a system that allows them to keep being consumed. Isn't that insane? It's like I'm talking about a living thing, but none of these are living things, and yet that's what they do. That's the potential danger that they represent. They are continuously helping themselves be consumed by you. And at the end of the day, they can't force themselves onto you. You're the ones who seek them out. So you have the power to stop also. You have the power to never do them, never do drugs, and then you also have the power to quit, but it's going to be extremely tough. It's much easier to never start. Much easier. Don't even start. Okay, if you're young, if you're questioning yourself, do I do PEDs? Don't. Do not. Okay, I just saved you months of rehab. I just saved you years of struggle. Don't. And that's something I spoke about too with the battered spouse. Because the battered spouse, at the end of the day, yes, you can argue that they stay with the abuser, so it's partially their responsibility. But for the drug user, it's different. They consume the thing that kills them. And that creates guilt. It's the guilt of destroying your heart. And that is going to haunt you. Because now you're also having to deal with the sentiment of culpability. You're going to feel ashamed because unless you're a complete hermit, you have friends, you have families, a lot of PD users have kids. How do you justify pinning yourself with hard drugs knowing that you have a kid that depends on you? How? How? Think about it. Try to put yourself in their shoes. How do you do it? Well, the only way is to just double down on the lies. It's the only way. You are creating a future for your children where they're going to see their dad, most likely, croak, die, disappear. How do you cope? Well, you tell yourself that you're not actually doing anything dangerous, and the day you die, it's too late. It's too late because excuses do nothing. They don't prevent a heart attack. Last I checked, there's no magic excuse pill that is going to make sure that heart attack from that enlarged heart from 20 years of PEDs is not going to happen. It's going to happen, it's going to kill you. That's what you need to hear. That PED use is the reason why you're going to die. And in reality, there's only a few people on this earth that get to pick their death. There's the lucky ones that are going to just die of old age, and they will be blessed. And then there are the ones that are going to engage in habits that will kill them early. And in reality, these people also get to pick their death. Because when you pick your drug, and you make it a drug habit, you're picking your murderer. The capital execution, you already know who's going to deliver that to you. It's your drug. You spend money on the thing that's going to kill you. This is it. Most normal people, and I insist on the normal people, can't get that. It's a concept that we cannot grasp. When I see someone smoke, I'm thinking, man, you really are stupid, aren't you? You are paying $10 to buy things that make you smell bad and that are going to kill you. And the only way you can reason with that for them to produce an excuse is to say that, oh, well, I'm addicted. Yeah, that's the problem. You're addicted. This is not an excuse. Saying I take drugs because I'm addicted is not an excuse. It's the reason, and it needs to be fought. Okay, but it's used by PED users as an explanation, as if, oh, you're addicted. Well, by all means, inject yourself then. No, realize it. This is a problem. You need to fight it. This is not who you are. This is what the drugs made you into. And then there is also the question of the mindset that accompanies PED use, because I'm sure that what I'm going to say is going to resonate with you. There is an insane warrior mindset that surrounds the PED use. These guys act tough, right? But why do they act so tough? Well, first off, because the drugs make them extremely confident because of all of the hormonal boost, but it's more than just that. It's an image that they project to protect themselves, because deep down, they're extremely insecure. No one is more insecure than someone who uses PEDs, right? It's covering something up. And this is why this extreme image has always made me laugh, because you can easily pierce it. You can easily see what is below the surface of that tough warrior mindset. And it's easy to see for one reason. First off, because all of that masculinity, first off, comes from in viral form. I already said that, which is interesting because if your valor as a man needs to be delivered to your doorstep from some weird Chinese place in an unmarked package that you're going to hide in the bottom drawer so that your wife doesn't know, is that masculinity? I don't think so, and it's the reason why so many of these guys are weak. They are not good role models, is because there's no substance there. There is a substance, it's called test, but beyond that, what do they have to offer? They're void. They're void of ideology, of their mentality is weak, they have losers' mindsets because they have given up on their own body's ability to get big. That's not all PED users, but it's a large portion of it. And you recognize this man for one simple fact, a simple detail that allows you to always pinpoint the ones that are compensating for something. And that's the ones that tell you that no matter what happens to them, they'll be fine. Meaning that they'll tell you, okay, if PEDs actually get my ass and I end up dying, I'll be fine. That's what I call a warrior's mindset. Because if it was truthful, then it would be somewhat respectable. It's something that I already called kamikaze beauty. Okay, you're willing to give your life to be as big as possible. Cool. A part of me respects that. I cannot go against that. There's something manly in this, even though it's still drug use. But the problem is that how many of these dudes actually do that? How many of them actually continue on that path when shit goes south? The answer is zero. Because every single time one of these guys has some health complications, what do? Instagram, YouTube, film myself in the hospital. Oh, I'm dying. Help me, guys. Every single time. Every single time. The tough dude who was like, oh, I'm a beast and every obstacle I will overcome, vanished. All of that personality, pop, in the air. The second the doctor tells them, hey, you're gonna die, whoop, the tears, crocodile tears immediately. How does that compute? How do the people who watch these individuals not see that there's a problem here? What happened? What happened, bro? I thought that whatever life throws at you, you'll be fine. You don't seem super fine right now. You're crying live on Instagram. Is that being fine? And the worst part is that people buy it. Like, oh, you're poor man, let's pray for him. Pray for him? He put himself there. And on top of that, he told you guys that if something happened to him, he would be fine. He's not fine. But you know what? That's not just PED users. Every single time someone in my life was like this, someone who was doing something, a habit that was bad for them, they had the same type of discourse. I'll be fine. I'm a man. I'll manage. They never manage. They never manage. Every single time it's the same thing. Hospital, crying. And then death. Where is the responsibility in this? I'm really asking you, where is it? How is that fair? How is that fair? I'm going to get into the fairness of the whole situation. But first, let me say one thing. There is a saying in my country right now that profoundly annoys me, and that is, fume avant que la vie te fume. And if I were to translate it, is live life as fast as you can until before life kills you. Like YOLO. It's pretty much you only live once. Problem is, again, that these people don't stick to their guns when it's game time. All of that bravado vanished. It's gone. This enrages me because at some point you need integrity in your life, and if you're not going to be able to stick to that warrior's mindset until the end, then don't even front, don't even try. But they still do it continuously, and that to me is one of the worst excuses that they continuously try to present. They are painting a picture of themselves that is just not the reality, because when the Grim Reaper knocks, they cower behind the door. They don't open. And that is unacceptable. And I think I wrote something of the essence here. Two very simple questions. You are not in control of your drug use. You can never be in control. There's no such thing as a reasonable use of drug. Saying those words, a reasonable use of drug, doesn't that make your hairs stand? It doesn't make any sense. And you have to ask yourself, are you prepared to ruin your life? When you start taking PEDs, tell yourself, I'm doing something that is going to endanger my life, and then ask yourself, am I prepared to ruin my life? I have a perfectly healthy life in front of me. Am I prepared to start taking a substance that is going to kill me? If the answer is yes, by all means do it. If the answer is no, just stay natural. I'm not going to say you don't have what it takes, because no one has what it takes to take hard drugs. But if you're going to be one of those whiny babies, just don't. You're going to be an eyesore. There's already too many of them, okay? Hospital beds are full. We don't have more space. They also, that accompanies that entire, oh, I'm such a badass, but then crying when something goes wrong. They hide the dark sides, and they only show what's convenient. And that is social media and reality. Social media is sunshine and rainbow. It's always the same thing. You always show the good aspects of your life. You show yourself with the best pump. It's only the positive. And this is what I call fake positivity. YouTube is full of it. Instagram is full of it. Because it's not real. None of it is real. And I always prefer negativity to that. Meaning that real negativity at least is real. When I have a hierarchy in my brain, positivity is at the top. If you are actually positive and you actually have that value in your heart, be positive. If you're negative, but it's real, it comes from within, be negative. But don't be fake positive. Don't be at the bottom. This is despicable. It's projecting a wrong image to people. This is not the truth. And fake negativity is even worse, but that's not the topic. And that is the reason why you still have, to this day, people who use the argument that is, to me, the worst argument to defend PED use, and that is, but aRnOlD is still alive. I don't know if you've heard that. I'm sure that on YouTube Fitness, if you've been around, you have heard that. But aRnOlD is still alive. Well, how is that an argument for PED use? Well, in their heads, what they're saying when they say that is, one guy who was very well known for taking drugs is still alive, and therefore this means that PEDs in general are not dangerous because he's still alive. At this point, the argument is already debunked. Just by saying the argument, if you're intelligent, you already know that that's bullshit. But let me explain in depth why that is more stupid than you actually think. First off, aRnOlD was extremely successful, meaning he had the money to get the best doctors, to get the best treatments. He had multiple surgeries, and some people say, oh, it's not related to drugs. I don't know, I don't care. If that happened to you, you wouldn't have the money for it. There's rumors, these are rumors, I'm not sure if that's certain, that he actually had an organ transplant at some point. Guess what? Your broke ass isn't getting an organ transplant. He was at the top of the list. You're at the bottom. You're going to die. Okay? He was lucky because he made it. You know how many bums didn't make it? There's actually a documentary about it, where they show the life of the guys who tried to be aRnOlD and who failed. They all live out of their vans. They're also addicted to PEDs, and they're all dying in their 50s. This is the reality of PED use, okay? Not the 1% that makes it, the bottom feeders, the ones that no one talks about. No one talks about them. Why? Because social media doesn't like negativity. We like icons, and therefore, all of the focus is on the few that survived. But again, just go back, go and check bodybuilders from the 70s and 80s. Look at the ones who are still alive. Most of them should be, at this point, in their 50s, 60s. So they should all be alive, okay? Look at who made it. Only a few of them, okay? The rest are all dead. All dead of unnatural causes. PEDs. PEDs kill them. Say the terms. Say it. PEDs. That's why. Every single time. And that's something that is never expressed. And on top of that, if you take PEDs, you're not going to be aRnOlD. There will never be another aRnOlD. You're going to be another guy on Instagram or YouTube with 500 subs. You're going to go nowhere. You're never going to be able to monetize your image. And taking PEDs to make money off of your body is 1, reprehensible, 2, ineffective. Don't do it. There's no point. And then we have to talk about the fact that also when one of them dies, it's never blamed on PEDs, to the point where it becomes caricatural, meaning that you have a guy who's like 310 in the off season, who doesn't even look human anymore. He dies, and people are like, oh, he choked on chicken. He choked on chicken? Are you trying to tell me that this guy died because he choked on chicken? Sure, buddy. Or a guy kills himself and they're like, oh, it has nothing to do with PEDs. How dare you say that? Of course it has something to do with PEDs. PEDs mess up the chemical interactions of your brain. He hung himself because of PEDs. Oh, he was depressed. Guess why? PEDs. Either he was depressed at first, tried to fix it with drugs, it made it worse, or the drugs made him depressed. It can all be linked back, and it's disingenuous to refuse to link it back. But the word of PED users refuses to do it times and times again. The best example that I'm going to make a full video on is Ziz. Dude dies at the young age of, I think, 22, and people are like, oh, it's congenital, bro. No, I don't think clean use is congenital. Whatever he had with his heart was triggered by PED use. It's disrespectful towards the people that actually live healthy lives and actually die of a freak heart attack to say that what he was just due to congenital illnesses. No, it's not. It's your PED use. You are awakening diseases that should have just stayed dormant with your drug use. Accept that fact. Your body is becoming a ticking time bomb with every single injection. And that is probably the most important part of the video in reality, because we're going to get to the part where you're going to dislike me. I'm going to say something that is going to make you maybe even hate me. I personally have no compassion with and for people who take PEDs and get sick and die. Zero. None. And if I were to tell you why, well, let me give you a metaphor. If you met a guy that cut his arm off, okay, he cut his arm off, and then he went around everywhere and complained that his arm is cut off, would you feel compassion towards that person? Would you treat them with more respect, more kindness? If the answer is yes, then you're a better person than I am. But for me, every single time I see that person, I would be like, hey, you're completely stupid. You cut your own arm off. Stop trying to get my compassion. You will get none. You are stupid. Leave. And if that person dies, I'm not going to feel sorry for them. They killed themselves. It's the same for PED users. And it blows my mind every single time on YouTube Fitness when there's a guy who's been taking drugs for a decade, something happens to him, and suddenly it's les grands eaux. Like, oh, everyone has to feel sorry, and if you don't feel sorry, you're a monster. Why? He did that to himself. How does that make me a bad person to point out that they did that to themselves? Because the worst part is that all of that kindness in reality just allows these people to continue. If everyone turned and was like, hey, you did that yourself, you are literally reaping what you sowed, then maybe they would change. Maybe they would actually reflect. But if they only get positivity and, oh, poor baby, oh, I'm praying for you, nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to change because it's making the behavior into something that is normal. Like it's an illness. Taking PED use is not an illness. Taking drugs is not an illness. You're addicted, sure, but can you compare that to an actual illness? How is that fair? We're getting back to the question of fairness. Compare that to a kid who's 4 years old and who has leukemia and dies. What is the difference between the two? Well, the difference is critical. One didn't actually want that. One didn't trigger their leukemia. It just happened and they died. The other one made a choice, an active choice to take drugs and destroy their health. It is incredibly disrespectful towards the victims of actual congenital illnesses to say that they're on the same level. It just is. And you know what's really fucked up? For having spent a lot of time in hospitals, I can tell you for a fact that these kids who get afflicted with vile illnesses out of nowhere and who die young, who never get a chance to live life, they're more courageous than PED users. Meaning that they don't complain. I've never met a kid who had leukemia who complained, who said, oh, why me, blah, blah, blah. PED users do that all the time. Oh, how could that happen to me? Who is me? Look at me, guys. My life is so tough. You made your life tough. You're being out-toughed by a kid. That kid runs circle around you. I have seen kids console their parents when the doctor came and told them, hey, I'm very sorry to tell you that it's over. You're going to die. The kid, the young girl, was consoling her dad who was crying. You think PED users would do that to their family? You think that all of those guys who take hard drugs, when the family expresses feelings of concern, you think that they console them? I don't think so. I think they make it all about themselves. Why? Because PED use is deeply selfish, right? It's me, 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 me. And then when something happens because you were so egoistical, suddenly it's, oh, look at me, look at the martyr. They're not martyrs, okay? They're pieces of shit. That's what they are. So you take drugs and then you complain and you try to make yourself the victim. When something happens, you're a terrible person across the board. It's also a complete contradiction of what bodybuilding needs to be and should be, because in reality, bodybuilding is about health, longevity, and mobility. Health because building muscle has been proved and exercise has been proved to be extremely beneficial for your long-term health. On top of that, it also makes you live longer and happier because you have muscle mass to move around. The first use of muscle is, of course, is mobility. It looks pretty, sure, but it's function. Function is extremely important. And you might be focused, like I am, on the aspect, the aesthetic right now, but eventually you will realize that what is going to end up mattering is your ability to be active, and muscles is going to give you that. But the problem is that if you build your muscle via drugs, it's going to rob you of those old years. So what is the benefit? There is no benefit here. PED use completely contradicts what bodybuilding needs to be. It's a complete inversion again of the court of life that is bodybuilding. Natural bodybuilding is life. PED use is death. So when you mix the two, what you get? A weird cult that pretends to be a cult of life, positivity, but in reality is just a death cult. It is. It's a bunch of people who take drugs who are going to die. And it refuses to be something else, meaning that it will use all of the powers it has to not ever be pointed out as something else. And I'm going to take a quick pause here.
A few moments later.
I presented to you the situation. The situation is that all of their lies leads to the creation of the personality of the warrior that is in reality a facade, because when the drugs were off and when they're faced with the consequences of the drug use, they melt away, they disappear. But the problem, again, is that this is never really shown, meaning that if it's shown, it's seen in a positive light, meaning that these people complain on Instagram or YouTube and they receive positive attention from their audience. So it never really breaches the surface, because there are PED users that actually come and express the extreme anguish that their drug use created. But the issue is that these people get pushed aside because they preach a version of the truth that the court just doesn't accept and doesn't like. And that is the problem. The reality of PED use is being invisibilized. It's being shunned. But the reality is that it's the iceberg, right? The top, the shiny top who's white and gorgeous to look at, that's what you see. That's what is shown to you. But the reality is much darker and much colder, and it's never revealed to the public eye. And the problem is that this leads to a lot of really dangerous practices. For example, the democratization of TRT. When I see young men who are 18 who jump on TRTs, it breaks my heart, because there is no way that this person actually needs it. What they need is they need to fix their life. They need to fix their environment and their training. They certainly don't need to take hard drugs. And yet it is becoming a norm. There's a world where this is going to become the norm. But think about long terms. If you want to compare that to cigarettes, for example, I can tell you that my generation, who grew up in France, is going to be decimated. Why? Because a lot of them started smoking when they were 14 or 15. These people are my age now, they're 26. When they reach their 40s and 50s, how many of them are going to have lung cancer? How many of them are going to need to be hospitalized? The hospital system is going to collapse. We are looking down the barrel of a gun that is going to go off in 20 years. It's the same for TRT. All of these kids who think that it's safe, who are going to be on it for the rest of their life, will realize in 20 years that it wasn't safe. When they're going to be 40, right, and the hammer is going to come down, it's going to be too late. And the only way to make sure that it doesn't happen is to stop them from doing it now. It's the only way. And therefore, it needs to be pointed out. But again, the issue with what I'm saying right now is that because I don't have a big influence, because I don't have the credentials that some people have, I cannot compete with the parasocial status that makes it so that this constant and just relentless bombarding of positive values and of positive outtakes about PEDs are extremely hard to fight. Because if my voice is the only one that is trying to present the negatives, and you have only voices that camouflage or hide or minimize the negative and speak about the positive, then it's a doomed battle. The realization needs to come from within. And that's also, in reality, the situation that these people end up in. Because if you preach PED use as a positive for years and years and years, even if you are not necessarily open about the use, but you're just covert about it, this is your image now. You can never go back. Because the parasocial dictates that if you start becoming too negative, your audience is going to start losing interest in you. So you are forced to stay positive. So again, as I said, there are people on YouTube Fitness who ended up with a change of heart, and they started saying, hey, PEDs are actually bad. But they're rare. You know why? Because they vanish, they disappear. They don't have a voice anymore because their audience abandons them and they go back to someone who is more positive. And it's a phenomenon I'm going to talk about when I discuss the lies of pro bodybuilders. But it's the reason why so many pro bodybuilders try to pull the, oh, I'm actually not natty and I'm coming out and I need respect for it card. Or they did the, oh, I'm actually going to reveal the underbelly of PEDs. They do that because they sensed that the industry was dying. They sensed that the lies of PED users had run their course. So what did they do? They adapt. The characteristic of a liar. What defines a liar is they will continuously lie, but at certain degrees. They will vary the degree of the lie, meaning that if they're caught in a big lie, they will admit and accept only a portion of it, but they will keep their cards stacked. They will keep their cards hidden, and they will only reveal what they have to reveal. They will only reveal what they know is absolutely necessary to maintain their credential and their credibility, but just enough. They'll never reveal the rest. No one is going to just go all out. It never happened. Why? Because they're constantly trying to lie. They're constantly moving the goalposts. It's the reason why you had so many of these guys who came out and said, oh, I need to respect what I'm doing. I'm being transparent. No, you're not being transparent. You're being forced. You don't have a choice. We're on to you. We know you're lying, but you're trying to navigate the situation and say, hey, I'm coming out of my own volition. No, you're not. We strong-armed you into that. But like the good little weasels that they are, they always find a way to be on top, always. This is the reason why when you present the truth, you present all the truth and nothing but the truth. You cannot just present a portion of it. It has to be everything. That way they have nowhere to hide. They have nowhere to actually, pivot. It needs to be prevented because they can't be trusted. That's the reason why also, as I said, they also try to present the idea that naturals can be trusted is because they don't have it in them. They don't have that ability to be readable anymore. Their lies are too severe. There's too many lies. When you spend a life of lies, you end up realizing one thing. You cannot escape. It's too late because the spider web that you created around you to catch prey also prevents you from moving. Is the reason why being honest is important in life, because at the end of the day, your own lies come back to you. That's what some people call karma. And it's the halo effect as well. I've discussed that in a parasocial video, but the halo effect also stipulates that if you lose the halo, then you're screwed, because you also lose your power of communication. It's the reason why no one actually goes out against and speaks against the death court of PED users. Is because it is too dangerous. You're risking too much, especially if you are part of the court and part of the group. It's the reason why someone like me can do it without risking anything. Is because this is a natural channel. But I want the message to spread because you will quickly understand the reason why this situation is so dire. It's because if I go directly here, you also hear what I want to call a realization of sorts, meaning that there has been a new pivot, as I explained, in the world of PED users, and that pivot is represented by the sentence less is more and the word downsizing. You hear a lot of PED users nowadays using these terms, and what they try to say for the most part is, oh, I used to take drugs to be massive, but I'm at a point where I prefer a slimmer body, or I think I'll be more competitive if I'm lighter at a lighter weight class, blah, blah, blah. All of that is, of course, lies. Lies, 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 that's all they do. In reality, what happens is that a lot of these guys are older, they're more aged, and therefore, they're gonna die. I can tell you, I can put money on the fact they saw their doctor, the doctor saw their blood work and was like, okay, keep it up, in 5-10 years, you're dead. So what do? Can they come on camera and say, hey, my doctor said I was going to die, I need to stop my foolishness, I'm going to drop the regimen, I'm going to take less. Do they do that? No, because that would take integrity, that would require honesty on their part. They can't do that, so they spin a new lie. They say, oh, I'm downsizing. You're downsizing nothing. The only thing that downsized is your brain. No one buys that lie. And the worst part is that a lot of these guys, it's a lie within a lie, because they say, I'm downsizing, but I'm not really losing any size. But they say, oh, I'm actually taking no drugs or a baby amount of TRT, but they still look as big. So it's like, man, Are you thinking we're that dumb? Or are you that delusional and just knee deep in the cognitive dissonance that you don't realize that those things don't make sense, they don't correlate? This is what can happen to you. You can end up with a fucked up health, a fucked up brain, no logic anymore, no reasoning, a whiny baby. Is that what you want? Is it the picture that you want to be? Is this the man you want to be? At 40, 50, when you should be a role model for the younger generation, do you want to be that guy instead? Another question that you have to ask yourself. For the conclusion, it's a community of drug users refusing to face the truth. They're using icons of the past like aRnOlD as justification for their drug use, and overall, all of what they say needs to be taken with more than a grain of salt, a pile of salt, because they always take much more than they say, and they make much less money than they say, because the entire industry in reality is not as lucrative as you might think. And it echoes something I said last week too, and it's another contradiction and lie within a lie that I think you'll find interesting. These guys say that PEDs don't do much. They also say, in reality, when they say that, by correlation, that hormonal profile is not that important, and yet they still claim that the difference in range of testosterone production between naturals and bodybuilders don't really make the difference. I don't know if you understand how deep I'm trying to dive into the mind of someone who is delusional. What they say is, drugs don't do much, which means that differences in hormonal profile don't do much, which explains why they can claim that they got their body through hard work, because apparently if you have 5 times the hormonal profile of another man and you're closer to a bull shark than an actual human, then it doesn't do much, okay? And then they try to spin it back with another lie that contradicts what they just say when they say, oh, you can't take advice from other naturals because they might be gifted in terms of test. But so suddenly hormonal profile matters. So it doesn't matter when you take drugs, but it matters when I'm naturally producing test. How do you explain that? Well, you can't. So that was the whole tidbit I wanted to add at the end so that we can go into the next segment, where I explain also why I can already hear some of the comments and arguments I'm going to receive. People are going to tell me, you can't speak about steroids if you don't take them. Another stupid argument that I'm going to debunk with delight, because saying that for any drug is stupid for so many reasons. First off, I don't have to take drugs to understand that they're bad. 2, why are you trying to get me to take drugs to get on your level? It doesn't work. But the worst part is that I've heard that used for certain drugs like heroin. Like, oh, you can't judge, or you can't help, or you can't assess the situation of someone on heroin if you don't know what it's like. Well then, fuck, we're doomed. What do we do then? We just let them do it? What is the escape? What is the way out? Well, there's no way out. This argument is designed so that you leave them alone. All of the arguments are the same. If you were to look at the conclusion of all of the arguments, it's the same. Stop talking about PEDs. Stop saying that I'm taking PEDs. Stop saying that PEDs are dangerous. Replace PEDs by drugs. You have the mindset of drug users. You have the mindset of this wood that has bought into the process of moral relativism to the point where it cannot recognize good from bad anymore. It cannot. We're at a point where people will actually argue that PED use is not dangerous. So they can't even recognize something that is potentially threatening their life. It's the reason why PED use is unnatural for so many reasons. We are programmed to survive. We are programmed to strive for life. So by default, when you inject a substance that is going to kill you, you are fighting against your own nature in more ways than one, because you are actively walking towards death. As a human, how do you cope with that? One way, you tell yourself that it doesn't do anything, that it's not dangerous. But then what does it make you do? It makes you go towards death even faster, because the drugs and the doses are going to be more and more. Do you see that pitfall? Do you see that abyss? It sucks you in. It's a black hole. The deeper you go, the deeper you want to go, the deeper you're gonna go. But eventually you can't come out. The gravity is too strong and you're just stuck. And this is death The center of the black hole is death. And this is why I get so frustrated when I discuss these topics, is because it's like if I saw someone with a knife here, slicing their veins, splurring blood everywhere, and then tell me with a smug smile, it's not even dangerous, bro. How do you help these people? Well, some of them can be helped, but it's preventable. The mindset can be prevented, the lies can be exposed, the insane manipulation can be countered. It can. So that's the entire, you can speak about steroids if you don't take them. The problem, of course, is that if you were to just walk and follow our stupid logic and you took them, guess what? Now you're addicted. It's the reason why this argument also doesn't work. If you tell me that I don't know what it's like to walk in those people's shoes because I don't have their life experience, then doesn't it also work for them? Aren't I also, in a sense, a much better judge of their situation? Because they see the situation through rose-tinted glasses. They're in love with the drug. They're addicted. They're the battered spouse. So don't I have a better objective assessment? I think I do. But it's an argument that you hear all the time. And in reality, again, the crux is to kill discussion. You are not this, so you can't talk about this. End of discussion, that behavior continues. Nope. I don't take drugs. I don't need to pin myself with tests to know that it's bad. It is bad. That's it. And some people actually accept that, right? I'm not going to pretend that some don't. Some people see the truth in that. But then they'll back off because, of course, the goalpost always moves. These people can never admit they're wrong. And they'll say, okay, you're right, but I'd rather live a short, intense life. Lie, that's a lie, okay? Straight up, as I explained, all of the people I saw who said that, when I visited them in the hospital afterwards with a terminal illness, none of them had the same discourse. That self-content smile on their face when they were indulging in their bad habits, gone. Cries, tears, that's all I saw. And it's well-deserved. That's what you get. It's what you get. Get what deserved, as Jason Genova would say. So that's a lie, okay? No one wants to live a short, intense life. The people who tell you, oh, I don't want to live to 80, yeah. Do you want to live to 40? That's the question. Don't even, your 80s are out of reach for you. Out of reach. You'll never make it there. Do you want to live to your 40s? Do you want to live old enough to see your kids graduate? Do you want to live old enough to see your kids go to middle school? Do you want to actually get to play with your grandchildren? Those are the questions to ask. And if you tell me, oh, all of that doesn't matter, you don't understand life. Because your life will be made worse by roids all your life. That's also the entire problem with the, oh, but aRnOlD is still alive, so PEDs are okay. Yeah, but you don't know his life. Maybe his life sucks. Maybe he only shows the positive. Maybe all of these ex-PED users, maybe all of the PED users, their life suck. You know how many of these pro bodybuilders need to go to the hospital every week for dialysis? Because their liver or their kidney doesn't work anymore. You know how many? You think they film themselves? Here is the machine that filters my blood because my drug use fucked my organs so much that my body can function. Look, guys, none of them do that. Why? Their sponsors wouldn't appreciate it, I'm sure. But on top of that, it's just that endless hiding and just shoving away of all of the negative of PEDs. It's constantly that. And on top of that, with the mindset of live fast, die fast, which is already a lie, as I said, even that life you're going to live fast is going to be shit. Because let's say you're saying, okay, I want to live intensely until I'm 40 and then I'm dead. Okay, you're going to cry when you're going to die. I can tell you, you're a wimp. Across the board, I'm predicting your future right now. If you get to that, even let's say you do it, you manage, you live an intense, amazing life for 40 years. Guess what, buddy? There was negatives in there. What do you think you did with your PEDs? You just cut down the end of your life and it's like, whoop, that's it. I'm taking that end of my life and I'm squeezing it on top of the rest to get all of the benefits and then I'm dead. No, that end is also going to be full of illnesses, depression, mental problems, and just a sucky existence. Because PED users worsen your life immediately. It doesn't just compound. That's also the problem with the lies of the sides. Oh, the sides, yeah, they show up like 15 years down the line. Nonsense. They show up almost immediately. A lot of them. And the ones that show up in 15 years tend to be a heart attack or cancer. cool. Oh, I have 15 years until cancer. What a deal. Let me sign immediately. Amazing. Who doesn't want to chuck bricks at their screen when they hear stupidity like this? Oh, if I get cancer later, I'm going to be fine. Do you know what cancer is? Do you know what chemotherapy does to a man? Have you ever had someone that you love die of cancer? Ain't fun. It's not, oh, it's no, I'll deal with it. You won't deal with shit. You won't. You'll be a skeleton in a bed. That's what you'll be. Is this the life you want? Imagine the damage that'll do to your psyche. You were big your entire life, and now you can barely sit up because of your stupidity, because you wanted all of that muscle right now. Look where it got you. It's going to get you there. Save yourself now. You can. It's up to you. But if you never do it, it'll be too late. Because all of the damage you do to your health, as I said, some of it shows up immediately, some of it builds up. You don't receive a card in the mail sent by Mr. Trend who tells you, okay, today I took 15% of the vitality of your kidney. In 4 years, you're going to have to start going to the hospital because you're going to get very frequent kidney stone. Xoxo, the drug. No, it doesn't happen. You just don't know. But you know it's in there. You know you should be feeling for something. You should feel guilty. You will feel guilty. It will ruin your life. And eventually, the bill will have to be paid. Eventually, it's completely unavoidable. It's also the you can use and not abuse that is so frequent, and especially it's people who try to peddle TRT or low dose. First off, low doses tend to already be much higher than what naturals produce, so by default, you know they do damage. But you can't just stay at low dose. That's a myth. It's an urban legend, because it's one simple reason. You took drugs to burst a muscular plateau. You wanted to get more muscular, and apparently you couldn't. Mr. Wimp. So you took drugs to break that plateau and build muscle. So you did that, okay? That's accepted. Question is, since you broke down one time, why not twice? When that amount you're taking right now doesn't allow you to progress more, why not take more? There's the reason why up the dose is a meme. It's because people do it. When you, a natural, are stalling, you look at the program and you up something. When a pro bodybuilder or PD user stalls, what do? They up the dose. Oh, more trend, more this, more that. It's so evident that it's what's going to happen to you. You've already demonstrated your lack of ability to progress by yourself. You rely on a chemical crutch. So guess what? When that chemical crutch and that dose is not enough, you're going to just take more. That's unavoidable also. It's just what logic dictates. You're going to end up chasing the dragon. It's never going to be enough. Your body dysmorphia is going to get out of control because guess what? PED makes everything bigger, and that's not just the tumors in your body, that's also your mental illnesses. Your body dysmorphia is going to take a form. It's going to turn into such a titanic entity of angst, of constant aggressivity, constant nagging towards you that your mental health will never recover. You will be screwed for life because this mindset is going to carry itself forward. The body dysmorphia gets big and it never regresses. And if you're struggling with body dysmorphia as a natural and you think that the PEDs are going to make it disappear, and that's the problem with also getaway drugs and slippery slope that people like to point out as being fallacies, but it's not fallacies, it just makes sense. If you're looking at the getaway drug thing and you're thinking about it, it's a discussion that could last for hours, but pretty much you're taking a product that is outside of the body to get a result, to get maybe a jolt of pleasure or to get something else, to get release, to be less anxious, etc., etc. You're teaching yourself that if your body, through your behavior and your environment, cannot achieve a goal, then it's fine to do it via chemicals. So in reality, yes, getaway drugs are a thing. Even if the drugs don't do the same thing, they can still represent the same mental attraction, and therefore they can still lead to one another. And for the slippery slope, it's the same thing. It's very simple behavioral psychology. You teach yourself how to behave. You're constantly teaching yourself what is okay, what is not okay. You're teaching your brain what is acceptable to think. You're teaching your body what is acceptable to do. So if you start doing a little bit of drugs, a little bit of test, a little bit of here and there, what are you doing? You're starting to walk on that slippery slope because you're teaching yourself it was okay. That first jab of drugs is the start of the end. It's going to escalate from here. It's going to snowball. Who do you think you are? Or you're the exception, you're Mr. Special. You're the one guy who's going to take 250 milligrams of test for the rest of his life. That's you. Again, even guys on TRT end up cracking at some point and they take more. On TRT, by the way, I'm talking about TRT. If you want to know the difference between TRT and fake TRT, check the videos I made about it. Of course, if you go to a doctor, an actual doctor, not a youth clinic, and you get regular TRT, most likely it's because you actually are low test. But for the rest, it's nonsense, it's drug use. So these are the problems you're going to have to face. These are the fallacies you're going to have to enter in and justify in your own brain to continue your use. And that, it leads to something that always pisses me off, because every time you try to discuss psychology or you try to discuss the way the human mind works, you always have people who are going to talk about the natural fallacy, the appeal to nature. This is a fallacy in itself. The appeal to nature fallacy is a built-in fallacy to counter an argument that is perfectly sound. There is an entire branch of psychology that is called evolutionary psychology that studies the evolution of the human cortex and the brain functions of our species throughout hundreds of thousands of years. And you are coming and you're telling me, oh, that nature fallacy, bro, we're not cavemen anymore. No, we are. This modern society is nothing, it's brand new. We've been something else for so long. The way we function is much more linked to our past life than it is to our modern life. So you have to pay attention to it. And what I described, that addiction that is going to build in your brain, that is human psychology 101. You have to accept it. It is actually very dangerous to reject it, because you're going to end up like these people who think that everything is a social construct, even though societal norms stem from biology, almost all of them. Society stems from biology. It is controlled biology. But I cannot enter that discussion here. Maybe I will in the future, but keep that in mind. You are still an animal, and therefore treat yourself like one, because you have all of the weaknesses that the entire animal kingdom has, and we are no different. We are just much more complex, which makes it much more complicated to actually navigate all of these issues. You also hear people will tell you that, oh, I'll do drugs, but I'll do my PCT right. Like, okay, again, you think you're Mr. Special, but keep in mind that you still lose the muscle. All of the people who tell you, oh yeah, I gained 20 pounds and I kept it all, lies, lies, and lies. Again, I met people in gyms who took drugs and they all told me the same thing. They started with drugs. They said, okay, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to do 2 months or 3 months on, and then 2 or 3 months out after my PCT. And they did it, and guess what happened? One day, Mr. Big came to the gym with a depressed gaze, low head, okay, looking at the ground, looking like he melted. And I'm like, bro, what happened? And he's telling me, I don't understand. I'm eating as much as I can. I train as much as I can. I cannot keep the muscle on. It's like I'm pissing away the muscle. Well, yeah, of course you are. Your hormonal profile just cannot match. Your hormonal profile that was so anabolic is gone. So where do you think the muscle is going to go? It's just going to disappear. It's going to melt away. The environment that provided its growth is not there anymore. But since these people have told them that, oh, I grew big because of my training, bro, when the training fails to keep up, they don't understand. And I've heard people say, oh, if you take drugs, but then your training is really on point, you'll keep it all. Again, that's a complete fabrication. You cannot find me one study that proves that. All of the studies show that you lose most of the muscle mass. So that's going to be your future, because what's going to happen is you're going to do that once or maybe twice, and then you're going to think, man, I want to keep that muscle on, what do I do? And that's when you're going to enter the very fun and rewarding cycle of blasting and cruising, which in reality just means being on hard drugs for the rest of your life until you die. And that's why most guys end up doing that, by the way. It's the reason why pro bodybuilders don't do PCTs anymore. It's the reason why all of the honest PED users on this platform tell you that, yeah, they're cruising on the base and once in a while they blast. But the entire PCT thing, it's a thing for noob. Okay, none of these guys actually do it. Some of them like to talk about it, but they all know that it's completely ineffective, and it's going to be for you too, and therefore it's going to make sure that you also end up a full-time addict. Then there's also the arguments of the people who say they have low T. I've covered that in details. You don't have low T, most likely your life is low T, meaning that you have to fix your life before you start taking drugs. And also, even if you were low T, it doesn't justify wild and just random drug use. You have to actually get checked by an actual doctor, not some guy down in Florida who pretends to be a doc and who would sell crank to a 5-year-old kid if the kid had enough money. We get then into the most stupid arguments, the one that I'm going to just run through very quickly because they don't take much time to debunk. First off, there's the hilarious my body, my choice one, because these people also tend to be extremely opposed to that argument when women use it, but they love using it themselves, like, oh, I do what I want. Well, sure, you do what you want, but just don't lie to people, that's it. Don't say any of the things that I said in this video, don't try to actually fabricate lies, just admit what is actually going on. And also, it's something that I've always believed. If you lie to people to sell programs and supplements, you are maybe not technically liable, but you are still technically an asshole. Meaning that what you're doing, I'm not going to say it's morally wrong, but it's just not right. It's still not right. And these people know it. It's the reason why we have fake nannies, by the way. Have you ever asked yourself, what is a fake nanny? What explains the existence of the fake nanny? Well, it's very simple. They know what they're doing is bad. If they didn't know, they wouldn't have to hide the truth. But they always hide behind the excuse I said last time of, oh, society doesn't accept me. Well, society doesn't accept you for a reason. It's because it's not acceptable. It's the reason why you lie. You also know that what you're doing is bad. And hearing my body, my choice from the people who pretend to be warriors is also extremely hilarious because it's a victim mindset. It's an endless repetition of that same act of cry bully. In reality, it's cry bullying. It's pretending to be tough, but then when someone comes after you acting tough, you retreat back and you say, oh, no, what you're saying is mean, or oh, don't say that. Oh, you said that someone who takes drugs and dies deserves it. You're a terrible person. Well, no, it's just called the truth. But that's what these guys do. And I see that all the time. They love to cry wolf also. The second you question their lifestyle, and they also use their audience, meaning that they like to send their audience of PED fanboys who tend to be prepubescent as a shield. Which again, if you're a big tough warrior, one, when something goes wrong in your life, why do you need all of these people to congregate around you and make you feel better about yourself? And two, why do you need to use them as a weapon when you're losing an argument or when you are actually being exposed for your lies? If you are righteous and you actually understood what you say and you actually stood for something honest, you wouldn't have to do that. But of course, they have to do it because they are nothing that I just described. They lack integrity completely. So I discussed the legally liable thing. Just because you're not legally liable doesn't mean that you're right. Legality doesn't equate with morality in any sense of the term. Because these people, what they're actually doing is they're normalizing a behavior that is going to be copied by other people. But what happens in reality is that they're multiplying. It's like they're creating clones of themselves. But when you think about it, these people are miserable. I've already told you, I've painted the picture of the PED user. So they're miserable. They hide their misery behind lies that normalize the behavior, that leads more young people to do drugs, that are going to become miserable, that are going to lie, etc., etc., etc. PED use on this platform, on YouTube Fitness, creates more PED use by default. Meaning what? It's a multiplication of sorrow. It's a multiplication of unhappy people that create more unhappy people that all smile for the camera and flex with the pump, but deep down, this is a deeply toxic environment. And it's a reality that a lot of people are never privy of, because if you never go and see beyond the mirror, you will never be able to access that reality. Including also arguments that are just as stupid, like I do that to get a higher status, like money and girls. That's easily debunked. There's no money to make in this industry anymore. Girls don't like the storied look. There are a few that do, but for the most part, you can get girls if that's your big goal for fitness, which is already questionable, but maybe you're young and you haven't understood the entire importance of self-development. You can get girls with natural lifting, actually. It's much easier and you're not going to die. And also, when it comes to the entire appeal of that, that's a discussion for a later video that I'm going to make about the aesthetic bras, because they really, again, normalize the type of lifestyle that is highly decadent, in my opinion. And even if this worked, even if your big plans materialized, you're leading an hedonistic lifestyle devoid of meaning, and you sacrifice your future for instant gratification. We should remain PEDs, instant gratification, like instant gratification juice, because that's what it is. It's the inability to invest for the future, and you just want everything now, so you're going to take drugs, and it's going to destroy any chance you had of having a happy life in the future, or even having a future in the first place. This doesn't make sense. And it's the same with any hedonistic lifestyle. The constant pursuit of pleasure only leads to distress, destruction, and sorrow. Always. Get it through your head. It is a key aspect of life. If you understand it early on in your life, you will be able to go really far. Pleasure is a trap. It's a byproduct, but if it becomes the product, you are in deep trouble. Deep, deep trouble. And all of these people realize that. Because when you realize that all of this is bullshit, it's too late, and you end up in the behaviors that I described, people who say they're downsizing, who cry on camera, all of that good stuff. And that leads me to a point that I saw here that is going to almost close the video, because it's a question that I got, and I thought it was very interesting because it's deeply philosophical. Someone asked me, if there was a substance that gave you muscle without all of the side effects of PEDs, would you take it? And to that I say, no, because that substance doesn't exist. Get it through your thick skull. The idea of a magic pill that doesn't have sides and is going to make you big is the reason why so many kids and teens jumped on Psalms 3 years ago. It's because they were told, oh, there's no side effects, bro. When you hear that sentence, look at the ground, pick up the biggest rock you can and chuck it at the face of the person who said it. It's a lie. And it's the same for all of the supplements that come nowadays when people are like, oh, the miracle supplement. It's bullshit. Bullshit. If it could get you big with no side effects, I've been on this platform for 10 years. Do you know how many magical supplements I saw? More than I can count. None of them worked. And if they worked, they ended up getting banned by the FDA because they modified the hormonal profile, aka the steroids. Why are you constantly looking for an instant gratification pill? You're looking for results without effort. Guess what? It doesn't exist. My countryman Lavoisier said it best. Rien ne se crée, rien ne se perd, tout se transforme. Meaning what? It's the principle of the equivalent exchange. In life, if you want something, you have to put in as many efforts. Meaning what? When you take drugs and you get instant results with no work, what does that mean? It means that you paid for it with something else, but you don't see the something else. You know what that something else is? It's your vital energy. And again, you don't receive a bill at the end of the month, but I can tell you that you're paying it. You're not even aware of it, but you're paying it. Put in the work. Work with the equivalent exchange. Put in energy, put in effort, get muscle. Don't do it the other way around. Because every time you inject tonnage, you're also, in a sense, losing a portion of your lifespan. That is the currency that you're paying PEDs with, your lifespan and your quality of life. And these are the most important thing you have. Fuck muscles, okay? I've said it first. You can repeat it on other channels. Fuck muscles. Health first. Who cares about all of your muscles when you're sick? And on top of that, once you're sick, the muscles will be gone. So don't prioritize them. Again, you're not thinking right. You're prioritizing pleasure. Prioritize health. Prioritize the long term, always. It's the reason why I don't want your bullshit magic pill. If there was a magic pill, I don't want your magic pill because it doesn't exist. Its name is PEDs and I will never touch that stuff. So that's that thing. And in reality, that boils down to a pact with the devil. PEDs are a pact with the devil. You're giving away a portion of your lifespan for instant results. Is this a good choice to make? When in literature was a pact with the devil ever turned into a positive thing? Never, for a reason. Stay away from that. PED use is also both anti-physical and anti-spiritual, but I don't even need to describe why. I think I've already explained it. And people will finish, because of course, if I pushed you so deep within the moral relativism at this point, you have no argument, so you'll tell me, oh, but it's my life, and to that, I will answer with something that I'm sure is very aggressive. No, actually no, I have just blank because it's so stupid that I don't have an argument, but I just want to say that someone wrote, I respect people staying natural, and I just want to say that I don't want your respect and fuck off, because what would you live in where people who take hard drugs get to give respect to naturals? We are the normal ones, we are the ones who are doing things properly. You are an idiot, okay? No one wants your respect. What you should be getting is the respect for your own self that you're not providing yourself right now because you're taking drugs. Get better. I'm shaking. Wow. I'm actually pretty mad. So that's that. I'm almost done, I promise. I just want to say one thing too. It's your life, sure. Think about your little brothers though. Think about this community. Think about the people that you're going to turn into yourself. You're taking drugs right now. You know you're miserable. You know you're not happy. Is this the future you want for your bros? For your sisters out there? Please tell me that it's not that. Please tell me that you're just too stupid, you're too deep in the cognitive dissonance and you don't realize what you're doing. This is the only way you can be forgiven. Because if what you're doing is on purpose and you're just trying to make other people miserable because you refuse to face what you are and what your life is, then you cannot be saved. Think, all right? That's what I'm doing every time I post a video, I think. What impact do I have on people's life? Is it positive or negative? Because I care, I truly care, and you have to care, because it's all we have, it's each other. You're not alone, you're part of a community. And these people make their money off of the community, so yeah. Okay, all right. And I think that's going to be that. I think we're done with this. I'm going to finish by also saying that the end stage of this entire thing, the end stage of the death of morals, or actually the manipulation of morals to serve their cause, is the sentence, the insane sentence, the sentence that almost makes me sick just saying it. No one is natural, which is what I explained already. They try to pretend that it doesn't matter if you're natural or not. No, actually it matters a ton, dickhead. That's all that matters. They also pretend that we complain, naturals complain. We don't complain, we just tell the truth. People, and they also say, please, they don't say, please don't talk about it. They should beg us on their knees to not talk about it and all of their lies, but they don't, because of course they have to be tough until the day where they actually cry on camera, as I said. So yeah, I'm going to continue talking about it. I'm not going to show compassion to these people because, as I say, they perpetuate hurt. And people who say, oh, but everyone does it. Yeah, but just because the behavior is normalized doesn't mean that it's right. There's a lot of things that are normalized nowadays that are actually hurtful and disgusting and horrifying. And I'm sure a lot of things are coming into your head. People who say it's not worse than other drugs, you're right. All drugs are bad. Stop using drugs. Thank you very much. That was my PSA. And that's that. Even if they admitted to it publicly, as I just exposed to it, to you, PED users still lie, they continuously lie, they cannot be allowed to get away with it anymore because they hurt people. It's not okay to lie. They're not good role models, and they die young. And I'm going to end the video on that. Thank you for watching, have a good day.